Welcome to Disturbed. It is season 7, episode 1 of American Horror Story Cult. I almost screwed that up already, and we just started. So I'm Rob. Southgate. With me is
Chris Mouth.
Hey, Chris. Oh, man, we got stuff to talk about here.
We do.
First episode, season 7, episode 1. It's called Election Night. And you know what? Before we jump into it, I want to do a couple of different things. We haven't done this before. We've had so much interaction on Facebook and Twitter and things that I wanted to highlight a couple of things so that people know that we're actually reading these and engaged. Our Facebook page, just look up at Disturbed Podcast. You know how you can do those at things on Facebook now? That's a really easy way to find us. Chris, you posted a thing about the final cast. This was going back a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Bryce Lee Wynn wrote Lena Dunham, the problematic white feminist, and put all sorts of laughing on there. I thought that was pretty funny. And then we also had, and this goes back even further, but it was when everything was announced about the title at SDCC. And once again, Bryce Lee Wynn wrote, "My mind, body, and soul is ready." And that's when we saw that logo with the clowns. Right. I thought they were just trying to play with us. No, they're not just playing with us.
No.
So,
well, they are, but they're really playing with us. They're not.
Oh my gosh!
They're not messing with it. They're doing it.
So the other thing is, if you follow us on Twitter at Disturbed Podcast, we will tweet out when we're going to go live going forward tonight. Since it was just kind of spur of the moment, we thought, you know what? People don't know to do all this interaction, but we have a live chat room, and we will talk to you during the show when we record live. So we'll try to give a little bit of advance notice, like we're going to record tonight at 8 or something like that. So follow us on Twitter to find that out. Once again, it's at Disturbed Pod. And I'm going to just double check and see if we had any new things. Oh, we had a few new followers. We could highlight those. Eric Newton followed us. He's a podcaster from the Together Minute, which says it's a sports thing. Funny Picture, Digital Bus Tour. I'm sure that's not a bot. Alessio, which I can't read because it's another language. The Funny Magnet, and Fitness Motivation, because when I think you and I think fitness.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So there we go. If you follow us on Twitter, you follow us on Facebook, we'll try to give you some kind of shout out. If you write with us, we will respond, and we'll try to start reading those on the show. So, Chris,
yes,
we
sir.
should probably get into this. What do you say? So, first of all, initial reaction before we start trying to break it down. What did you think of this episode?
You know what? I really, really enjoyed it. There are some parts that I hope I can enjoy more. Excuse me. But I think overall, I think they're setting the table for. Pardon me. I apologize. I think they're setting the table for a good episode, bringing a lot of elements from other seasons of the show. It was great. I mean, you know what? I love it. We've been waiting for this obviously a long time, but I mean, I think there are some things that I hope they can flesh out a little bit better. But I loved it. I mean, I loved the whole clown stuff. I loved, and we'll get into that. I loved, the way they're bringing it in, how they tied an election, the recent presidential election into it. I think it's great. So,
yeah, I did enjoy that at the beginning. Just going to the beginning, I really enjoyed how they tied that in. It was funny. Martha and I watched it together. And I think she was definitely more traumatized by this episode than I was. But that beginning, seeing that election night again, was so unsettling.
Oh, yeah. It was horrible.
I know you're watching it, and Martha finally goes, this would be just as upsetting if it was fake, but this wasn't fake. Like what was going on there. And I love the reactions. Like Sarah Paulson, the way she reacted when she's like, she voted for Stein, and she's like, don't tell anybody.
Right.
And then when they brought up the fact that and this is how, without getting political on the show, no matter what side you're on, people that voted the way they did have, these reactions. And one of the things that they said was when they got upset, like, hey, you were doing a protest vote by not voting or voting for Stein, and this is what you get. And the reality is that is, if you're on the one side, if you're against Trump, that is exactly how you feel. Sure. If you're for Trump, you think, well, no, that's ridiculous. He won. And here, I even though they were definitely against Trump, okay, right. I think that they showed that well. And I think that if you really step back from it and think about what they were saying, it did show that either side has a point there. Sure. They were definitely slanted, though. So I know that there are going to be people that are rippled by that. Sure. To me, I was more rippled by getting triggered by that election night again. Just seeing it again, I'm like, oh, please don't let that be real. Don't let this be happening.
Wait, well, no, and there was a lot of that. I just thought the thing that I touched on it was what I'm going to term is liberal apathy, where everybody thought it was in the bag. Everybody thought that the election was pretty much over. Hillary is up by 10%. So people just kind of stopped. And that showed you that all it needed was 1 out of 20 people to not do what they were supposed to. And look what happened, if that's the result that you wanted.
Right.
Obviously it is what it is, and we're living with it. And a lot of the fears of, I think a lot of the things that were talked about what the president was going to do, I don't want to say are being realized, but I think a lot of people said he's going to change. He hasn't changed. He's kind of acted the way that he's always acted. And I don't want to say I'm okay with that, but that's to be expected. But
right.
How there was like, oh, well, we got this in the bag, we didn't do it. And all of the little things like hey, Hillary didn't she didn't go and
she didn't campaign in Wisconsin.
She didn't campaign in Wisconsin.
And they were like, why didn't we go to Florida? Why didn't we go to Wisconsin? And that is a legit thing. If you followed any of this, that is a legit ththing. So it's kind of like they're complaining and being, slanted, but at the same time, they're saying like, hey, if you got what you thought because you didn't participate, or she went the wrong place. I mean, like things like that definitely did come out here. Now,
sure, like the time when the guy with the wife saying, "Well, you didn't go because you were too busy, and we could have used one of your 10,000 votes."
Right.
I mean, there were 2 in the room that didn't vote for the candidate that they wanted to win.
Right. How many, and they were devastated. It's like, yeah, but you didn't vote there.
Right. You didn't participate the way you do it. And I love Sarah Paulson's line. I don't believe it until Rachel Maddow says it. And, being a lesbian couple and having Rachel Maddow do it, I thought that was a very kind of, not a jab at all, but a very kind of that entitled kind of person's kind of view. Maybe that's right or wrong way to say it, but they're like, well, Rachel Maddow is going to say it. And I think throughout this show that they did a lot of nods to anchors of news shows.
Yes.
Very liberal, because there's an Anderson Cooper sighting. Kathleen didn't see it. I go, how could you not see it? That's Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, right.
No one is. I go, absolutely that is. But
that's who it was supposed to be. Yeah, absolutely.
Who else is it supposed to be? So, and I think there was like a Don Lemon one. I mean, there are some out there. So.
Yeah, the one thing about this episode, I didn't love the episode. There was a lot I liked. I thought that it was uneven. I thought that it did some cheap stuff.
Sure.
Although I kind of enjoyed the cheap stuff. I thought that it was choppy. That was what was strange. Like we were going in and out of Sarah Paulson's her psychosis.
Right.
But now we're supposed to believe that it's not all psychosis, right? Which is fine. Well, but it's not. It's not. You know that it's going to prove to be that Evan Peters is like supposed to be like, because they mentioned he's a 4chan guy, right? Yeah. So he's going to end up being like anonymous, right?
Right.
Or one of those types of groups. He's building like they call it cult. I don't know if it's necessarily a cult as much as it's a fanatic group. But that's what his character is doing. That's why, I mean, he started like humping his TV when Trump was elected. He's like, the revolution can now begin. Right. This is what I was waiting for. So it's funny. He's not, I don't think, a Trump supporter. He's an anarchy supporter. He wants it all burned to the ground. He wants fear to be in charge.
Well, so it's not that little soliloquy he had at the city council where he's
right.
We strive for fear and that's what people want. They want to be protected because it gives them relevance. And I thought that was a very interesting statement that he made.
Yeah, I did too. I also think it's interesting that the guy that challenged him there is the guy that the clowns went and killed. And there's no way that, see, here's how I know that it's not part of her psychosis. And they were supposed to lead you down this path. So when the kid when Oz sees the clowns, right?
Right.
And you see these and you're supposed to go like, oh, well, you know what? They kind of gave us a lay-in earlier when they said, who carried you? So if Sarah Paulson carried him, genetically, he could be predisposed to this. And they did mention that he has night terrors and that. But those were the same clowns.
Right. Well, I don't see.
And she's definitely, why is Winter there except to build on this? Now, I don't know why they're targeting Sarah Paulson and I can't think of, I'm drawing a blank. Allison Pill. Why they're targeting them. Although Martha made a really interesting observation at the very end when she turned over and the clown was there, Martha goes, oh, is Ivy in on this? So is Ivy in on this? Do you think that it's a case like that where it's going to be one of these where you're like, you know, she's part of that. She's into the butchering thing. She's into the cutting. You know, is it going to turn out that she's actually psychotic or that she's part of this cult?
I don't know, because I think there might be a combination of the reality and then also the other combination of it's just her phobia, because they went out of the way to talk about, and I have it written down.
Well, the clown she saw at the restaurant was not one of the clowns that came out of that little ice cream truck, but it was the clowns that we saw at the grocery store.
But there was a combination of both.
But so the kid's not going to imagine those same clowns. The three-sided clown and the one with the brain thing. The kid is not going to know to imagine that exact same clown.
Exactly.
You know, the twisty thing. Where now? Here's another question: who put the twisty book in the drawer?
Exactly, for him to read.
Well, because we saw an overhead shot. And I believe it was a female hand put it in the drawer, but maybe that was Allison Pill putting it in. Well, maybe Ivy put it in to keep it in the house.
Well, and is it just as the parent said, I'm going to take this, put it in a place where the kid's not going to find it, and of course your child finds it before you can remember where you put it. You know what I mean? Is it that situation where that happens?
Right.
Because when they react when Winter brings out the comic book, they knew I should have thrown it away. So, you know, I mean, there was that response like, you know, I'm a parent dealing with all sorts of stuff. The comic book is the least of my worries because my spouse is losing her marbles. And I don't know.
Right. There's that possibility, or there's a possibility that she kept it there and she's feeding into the fear. And how great, let's just isolate this for a second. You know, we've seen them do different styles in each season.
Right.
And I know that there's a big theory going around that this is the 7 steps of hell. Right. As you watch each episode, you're like, oh, or not 7 steps of hell. It's the 7 deadly sins, right?
Yeah, 7 deadly sins, right.
And this is season 7. So this is going to be, what is it, like murder or something is what they've said this one is.
Right.
So I was wondering when we saw the twisty thing, if we were going to be more straight up slasher movie.
Right.
And there are elements of that here.
Sure.
So I wonder if they're going to play with that because it's shot differently. It did have some of that stuff, but the twisty segment I thought was straight up like, okay, they're doing Friday the 13th. And then it turned out to be a comic book. I said to Martha right away, I go, you know what? This is obviously like they're filming a movie or it's something. And then it turned out to be the comic book. But how great was it? How great is it that Twisty is a comic book? And I'm assuming the Twisty is a comic book based on the Twisty.
Oh, sure.
That was a real clown that did the murdering in the 50s.
Right. Well, and it probably is. And usually they don't do the tie-in till like almost the end. And they did the tie-in right away. This is like,
well, Twisty's going to be in again because if you watch the preview at the end, you saw the back of Twisty's head. So Twisty is in this more.
Uh-huh.
And why did she have such trauma over that? Was she somehow tied into Twisty?
Exactly. Well,
is it just clowns or is it Twisty?
Sure. I don't know. I mean, I think that's gonna play itself out because she, this is obvious that she's had these problems for a long time. Because how old would you say she is in this? Early 40s?
Yeah.
So, I mean, she could have possibly been around or lived some of the Twisty stuff or been in that area. It sounded like they were where in Philadelphia, or they were in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think so.
It was? So
that's what it sounded like to me.
Because I thought Twisty was in Florida.
Well, and he was. Twisty was in Florida. And the other thing about Twisty is the girl in the movie or in the comic book said, or the guy said, Twisty killed those people like 35 years ago. So It can't be, and he died here. It can't be him. Well, that story for Freak Show didn't happen 35 years ago.
No.
That was much longer. That was like 60 years ago.
Well, yeah,
because this is 2017 in this show.
Yeah.
So, and we know that Freak Show didn't happen in the 70s.
No.
Or the 80s, actually, for 30 years ago.
Well, it would have been in the 50s. And so if it would have been Sarah Paulson when she was in college, like she's talking about, that's 25 years before, if that's the age difference. So that would line up where, in your theory, Sarah Paulson was a teenager or early 20s person. She was like in college age, and Twisty the Clown happened.
No.
The comic book.
She wouldn't have been, the comic book. But if Twisty if the events of Freak Show happened, and Twisty was a real person,
right,
in this universe,
right,
and the comic book made the reference to it being 30 years, but it was actually more like 60 years.
Right.
Yes, Sarah Paulson may be like high school age or whatever in the comic book world, but if Freak Show really happened in this world, she would have not even been born yet. It would have been way before.
No, you're right. I'm just saying that like 30 years from Freak Show would have put her right at the time that this was set. The clown thing was set.
Unless we find out that Twisty came back.
Well, did he ever? They never showed him dying.
I thought they did.
Twisty?
Yeah. Well, he went off. Didn't he die, and Mordock or whatever took him.
I don't know.
The guy with the two faces.
Yeah,
he took him.
Did he?
Because he died, and he joined his band of evil spirits or whatever.
So he came back in a hotel and came back at the hotel.
He wasn't in hotel. Well, he could have if he was. He could have.
Well, what if is it Mordock? Whatever. What if he brought his soul back and that's why he could kill people? I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot.
It could be that she was traumatized by Twisty, and maybe it turns out that it's not her that had the interaction with Twisty. Maybe it's a parent.
Right. Exactly. And
maybe she is the daughter of Dot.
Wow.
Wouldn't that be weird? So many threads. Oh, let's connect them all.
In so many shows, right?
That's right.
The daughter in Coven, right?
Right.
Yes, that would be great.
Why not?
Yeah, of course, because they just pull stuff out.
Hey, Queenie showed up in Hotel.
Yeah. Well, that was the definite. I mean, those were a lot.
But these are all tied together.
Sure.
Even though we haven't seen all of them tied together, they have said these are all tied together. This is a shared universe.
Right.
So Twisty, according to that, has to have been real. But what we don't know is, did he come back? That this would have happened 35 years ago? Was that comic book set in the 70s or 80s,
sure. Mm-hmm.
Which is possible. It's possible that the comic book was one in the 80s when slasher movies and all that were so popular.
Sure.
So they were doing a throwback 80s comic. Oh my gosh, I think I just had a stroke. It's getting so complicated. Oh, Sally's watching us. Hey, Sally, how you doing?
Hey, Sally.
Actually, Sally, I think you go by Danette, so I'm going to call you Danette. I'm going to call you Sally until you tell me otherwise. Or
Dally. We're going to call you something.
Something. So, all right. What else happened in this one? Because we're obsessing over Twisty.
We are obsessing over Twisty, but I think they did a great job of setting the different sides, the two sides of the one coin about how people felt about the election, like the shopping scene, let alone what happened with the clowns and what we're talking about. But she goes in and she's like, well, where is everybody? And it's Chaz Bono. Fantastic.
Oh my gosh, with the missing hand.
Yeah, Chaz the missing hand.
Oh man.
Here's a
tough one. Last season, did Chaz Bono lose a hand in Roanoke?
I don't know.
Wouldn't that be weird if it turns out that Chaz lost a hand that Chaz's character lost a hand in Roanoke, shows up in her dream with the missing hand, and if it's not a dream, why the hell is that character here?
Exactly. Well, who knows? Because they're tying it all together. I don't know. But I mean, that he's there and he's like, well, everybody's watching the president speak, and he's excited about it. And she dreads it, and she's just like, what the, it's how isolated people were about that, and it's just like, oh, well, this is great. And then the whole thing with her and Cheyenne Jackson as the psychiatrist, he's fantastic.
Can you put that coral away? It's got all those holes.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, she's nuts. I mean, she is legitimately nuts. And they're talking. He's like, well, just ignore it or just turn off social media. And the first thing you see her doing, she's on following Trump on Twitter, all these crazy tweets. And I just thought it was very, the show was a good table setter for how people that just couldn't believe that he's elected. And then there's people that for various reasons like it, whether it was, Chaz Bono's character who, hey, I love this guy, I'm for him. And then, Evan Peters, who's like sees it as an opportunity to stir the pot up. So,
yeah.
It was good. There were some great lines, where I can remember this happening when the election happened. Everything is going to be okay. Something stupid's going to happen. Maybe the president will be impeached. Maybe something will happen. Maybe he'll break something will happen. Everything's going to be okay. Well,
yeah, right.
I mean, I think everything is kind of okay because nothing's really crazy has happened. But
right, but here at that point, you really felt like it was going to be, right?
Well, this is just a blip. I mean, how many times did you hear that the few weeks after the election, where people saying, "Oh, this is no big deal"? It's like, well, no, this is
a big deal, and it's still a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would have been a big deal either way if Hillary had gotten in or Trump. There are, and I'm not saying like one would have been better or worse. Like I said, I don't want to get political here. What I'm saying is, whoever got the president, it was going to end up being a big deal.
Oh, sure, it was going to be
something. There's a lot of risk involved, either way.
It was very divisive. So, but it was good. So I guess what I'm looking at my notes. The fear of clowns is called coulrophobia. There's actually a name for it.
I thought that was fear of Coolio. Oh no, that's Coolio phobia.
Well, that's gangster paradise phobia. So sorry. And then trypophobia is the fear of things with holes, because she's got both of those.
Yes, she does.
She said something about the small holes. I'm like, she's nutty. So
that was interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just I think they're setting the table for setting the I think they're doing a good job of setting the table that she doesn't have a whole lot of credibility because she's
got these fears. See, now those fears are real. And here's another interesting thing. She said the guy tried to prescribe her the medication. She said, I do not take medication. I don't like taking medication. Yet Ivy says to her, you haven't been taking your medication. She goes, no.
Right.
No, I didn't take it this time. So she does take medication. So there's a lot of inconsistencies. Is the therapist thing real? We don't know.
Right.
Are the interactions with Ivy real? There was a weird moment. Now, I already know this isn't true. Okay. There was a weird moment when she saw the Twisty comic and she was sitting there freaking out, and the kid was standing behind her with his mop of yellow hair going, Mommy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring that in. And the way Ivy interacted, I thought Ivy was fake.
Yeah.
But then she hugged her and there was interaction that was like physical. And I went right in front of the kid and I went, it can't be in her imagination, because in Sixth Sense, they never touch.
Right.
And if they had not had them touch, I think it would have added a big question mark, because even the scenes at the restaurant, even the scenes in the car, they could all be fabricated in her head.
Sure.
But the hug in front of the kid is not. Ivy's real. But I think we're going to find out that Ivy is part of it.
Well, or doesn't understand. Trying to deal with someone with some severe mental disability is a very difficult thing to do. And Sarah Paulson.
I'll say we've done this 3 years.
Yeah, I know it's hard, and it's crazy having to deal with a little. But
why do you throw somebody from another podcast under the bus?
Because I have to, because he's here, because he's not here. But I'm just saying, like, dealing with.
Oh man, if he popped up behind you, that would be scarier than the clown right now.
Yeah, that would be very scary.
He's in your shower right now. Hi, Chris.
Hi, guys. But I'm saying, like, dealing with somebody that's got a lot of mental issues or even just a lot of health problems is a very, very difficult thing. But imagine them being, a lesbian couple dealing with all of the issues that they have dealt with in the last 10 or 15 years, raising a child, and then her having all of these issues. It might be a big strain on their relationship. So maybe they're not as together as Sarah Paulson thinks they are. And maybe,
if you watch, there were a lot of strange interactions, and I think they're trying to lead us down the path that Ivy is saying, hey, there are problems in our relationship, but I want to work this out. When in fact, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's tied into this. I want to highlight a couple of things here. Sally wrote in, it seems to me that someone is making Sarah Paulson's character look like she's crazy. I think that's exactly what's going on, because I think in the preview, when you saw her yelling, she was yelling something like, I am not crazy. This is really happening. And I think when we saw that with the clowns, I definitely think they are playing off of her fears.
Right.
And some of it, like the crumpet that was bleeding, that was in her imagination. That was not real. Because they are triggering these things. And even that doctor might be part of it. And it's not that they're about her, it's that they're trying to build this fear. They're trying to get to people through fear. And they live together, so it's like, I've been taken in, I have to work this. And then Sally said, someone close to her, because they know what her phobias are.
Sure.
Exactly.
Well, couldn't it be Winter? I mean, we don't know the actual timeline. Was Winter hired right away? Because it seemed like, so there was an election night, and then, but hold on, he was elected, and then they said our nanny left right away because she didn't know what was going on, and then they showed Trump in office, which is at least
they took the nanny. They took the nanny so that Winter would get that job.
Right.
And Ivy, I'm going to tell you right now, Ivy pushed for Winter to get the job. We didn't see it, but I know that's what happened, and that's why I think Ivy is involved.
Well, or she's or complicit. I mean, I don't want to say, it's hard to say her level of involvement, but maybe Winter's like, I can help her.
I think the clowns were in the restaurant. I think Ivy helped with all that.
Well, and also Winter is ideal. It's like their wet dream of a nanny. I went to Vassar. I did women's studies. I did this. I did that. Like when she started listing up all of her things, I was like,
I quit to go help Hillary. I did this. I did that. Yeah.
And it was like it's like the perfect setup. And maybe Evan Peters does have that that captivating power over his sister.
I think he totally does. I think we saw it.
Right. Like the pinky swear thing. And I want to know what the significance of that is. Because is that from another cult kind of thing? Or is that kind of that, and maybe that's where it comes in, because you were saying, I want to say something else, but there's a very Charles Manson property of his, or,
that was
David Koresh. I mean, there is that
was one of the things way back when things were leaking about what this season might be about.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I had heard was it was going to have a Manson vibe to it. And that was long before we heard it was cult or anything else. Sure. And I thought, what are they going to do? Are they going to do another like Back in Time? Are we going to see the Manson family? Maybe they're playing with those. I'm not talking, they are cults, but I'm talking where they're led by a figure like a Manson or a David Koresh. you know?
Oh yeah. Well,
I mean, they're all kooky. Let's face it, they're all kooky.
Those are considered cults because they are, they're changing their belief systems. And I don't want to go into the definition, but that to me, that is what a cult status would be, is, that they would change that stuff. But there's all sorts of vibes all over this. Did you get a Purge vibe? I don't know if you ever watch those movies, but where there's this lawlessness where people are just getting killed. I think that's, the kind of thing with the clowns that totally got that for me. And then also I got a Shining vibe in the beginning where it was very kind of, everything seems kind of okay, but there was a lot of weirdness underneath and you're waiting for it to crack. That's just the kind of vibes that I got stylistically. A lot of the TV, a lot of the low light, a lot of the, there was a lot of lighting transition. Things were really bright, and then they became, it wasn't that obvious, but it would become dimmer, and it was very, very kind of murky like that.
Sure.
I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's just my initial thoughts on some of that.
No, I'm with you. I mean, that was the other thing we did a lot last season. We talked about the different influences that we were seeing.
Sure.
We definitely saw Friday the 13th or 80s horror influence at one moment. Absolutely. Oh, you know what else was that scene with the twisty thing was Creepshow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I totally was like, hey, that was Creepshow. That's awesome.
It was like this episode of American Horror Story, Freak Show. No, like when she ran into his bus, I go, really? That's my first thing was like, really? That's what happened? But then when it became a comic book, you're like, of course that's what happened.
Yeah, of course.
And also, I was looking back over my notes. You were talking about Ivy, and kind of to support your theory, they're behind on the restaurant, and it's obvious that Allie hasn't been participating.
Yes.
So is Allie desperate to try and get this figured out one way or the other, and either get Allie on board and doing what she's supposed to, or is she just pissed because they're losing their restaurant because Allie can't do her end of the bargain, and so she, Ivy is.
I don't think it's going to just be that. I don't think that Ivy's.
Well, it's got to be.
The restaurant thing she is not happy about, but I think that's a byproduct of it. I think that's an easy excuse for her to use for why she's being this way. But I'm telling you, she's in with Evan Peters. She's in with Winter. Or maybe she's not in with Evan Winters. She's with Winter. Maybe Winter is her side business.
Sure. And it might be because it was too perfect. And maybe she said, this is what you need to say to get this job. And then we can be together all the time because we're going to sedate Allie. And, but I think all of that plays part into it. I mean, I don't want to say you justify it, but when you're looking for things that are going wrong and reasons to justify your bad behavior, you're going to find anyone. And if your partner is not doing their job at work, you're going to be like, hey, this is your fault too. And hey,
what if that is the ultimate thing? Maybe she's not part of the cult. Maybe she's just involved in trying to make Sarah Paulson crazy so that she gets her out of there so she can be with Winter.
Yeah, or something like that.
Something like that. I mean, that might be what's going on here. But Winter at the same time has this ulterior motive where she's in with Kai.
Right.
And Kai is off the reservation. I thought it was interesting with Kai. I mean, first of all, the Cheeto thing was amazing.
Oh yes. The orange Cheeto. Oh my gosh.
That was amazing. The idea that he's seeing all of this as an opportunity is a really interesting thought.
Right.
And like when he provoked the Hispanic guys, part of it you would say like, oh, well, he's a Trump supporter, so he was doing. That's not. He's only using Trump's fear base as a tool to get whatever his ultimate motivation is here.
Sure. Well, and I agree because he never said that, and I think that's a piece of the puzzle that a lot of people in America are missing right now. And not getting into the politics of it, but there's a lot of people who are using this as an excuse to further their agenda, and I don't think they are the people that the Republicans would normally say are their supporters, or they would, they get lumped into that group, but they're not. I hate to say whether it's the KKK or whether it's whatever. And I think this is a great example where Murphy and Falchuk are throwing it at us, saying, hey, you idiots, this is what's going on. And, maybe that's going to be the end result of this show. Because they obviously have a lot to say. They've been, not all over the board, but politically they're very liberal. And
and they've also been very vocal throughout all of this. And if you watch their body of work, definitely you know where they stand.
Right. So it's there. And so
now what's funny is if we were to jump into our time machine and go forward, I have a feeling everything we're saying, yes, our hot tub time machine, which would be scarier than Twisty if we were in there. Yeah. If we were to go forward, I bet everything we've said is wrong. It all makes sense right now to me, but our track record is terrible.
Yes. Well, first week it's horrible. So
horrible. Watch. Like Ivy is going to be the sweetest thing ever, who genuinely cares for Sarah Paulson. Sarah Paulson's character is going to be legit out of her gourd.
Right.
It was driven there by fear and by what happened in the election. Kai is going to turn out to be a figment of Winter's imagination. Winter is going to end up being just a kind, loving soul that has an imaginary brother. It's just all going to happen like that.
Imagine.
And we're at the series is going to end. The show is going to end with Oz sitting on the floor shaking a snow globe, and we're going to see Twisty inside, and that's how we're going to go. Like, oh, it was all a dream.
It was all a dream, yeah. Or wake up in a shower, and then we'll just do like a year of Dallas.
That's right.
It'll be perfect. So
Bobby comes stepping out. You're like, what the
huh?
Patrick Duffy
with a Barbra Streisand leg or whatever.
Now that would be stunt casting.
Yes.
Get Patrick Duffy on here and have him come out of the shower.
that would be, although that would be great.
So it's interesting. The cast is interesting this time because a lot of the standbys don't seem to be there, but some of them are. I'm like Sarah Paulson obviously is all over it again.
Yes,
Cheyenne is there.
Yes, Evan Peters obviously.
Evan Peters. Now it's funny because the last couple of years, Evan Peters has had more minor roles, important roles, but I have a feeling this is going to be an Evan Peters year.
Would you say that Hotel he wasn't minor? I thought Hotel he was front and center.
No, I would say he was more minor. He was a central character to it, but if you count the episodes he was really featured on, it's probably only a handful. It's not like Freak Show where it was about him.
Yeah, it was. It was about him and his struggle. So,
and I have a feeling this season is going to be an Evan Peters season.
That's good.
I think we're going to see him throughout here. It would be interesting if all the Evan Peters characters were all related. That would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be. Or he traveled through time. He was like a Time Lord and just traveled.
That's right. Oh, that'd be awesome.
That would be great. Which one are you this time? So that would be good. Yeah, because
his clowness and go backwards in time.
That's right. He's like Scott Bakula. He's like Quantum Leap. Oh boy.
I just hope this is the one clown adventure home.
That's right. There you go.
Terrible.
With it coming out, it's a perfect time for it. So, but yeah, like
you know what? Let's bring that up. There was a trailer for it, and they made a big deal about it tonight. Like, or when I was going to watch it, like, stay tuned for a sneak peek of it. It was the commercial. There was nothing there.
Of course,
I've seen all that footage,
and it's good, but it's not.
It is good.
They don't need. I don't know why they feel they need to hype this because it's plenty. It's like Star Wars. Why do you need to show all these trailers? Just put the movie out. How about that? I'll be okay. You can say, "Hey, here's Luke Skywalker. Let's go."
Right.
But you don't need to tease me because I'm in. No,
all they needed was one teaser. They needed the red balloon.
Yes.
And then they needed him doing that fast run through the water. And that because we did it on This Week in Geek. We saw that and both of us were like, I'm not watching another thing. This is it. I can't wait.
Well, until they throw the 10-minute the ship scene, the little boat down the grate scene, which is fantastic.
So
but you're just like, yeah, it's so good. But you're like, idiot kid, you're talking to
you're talking to a clown,
a clown in a drain. Get the blank out of there. But
yeah, how about that? Hey, Oz, let's go outside. I saw a bunch of clowns outside. Oz is like, don't go out there, and he goes right out.
Yeah,
like what?
Climb on my shoulders. Look in the window.
Any normal kid would be like crying and screaming. I'm not going out there.
Well,
Plus, she showed him the dark web.
Yes, the dark web showing them snuff videos on the dark web.
Gosh! And then she goes, "It's like getting a vaccine. It makes you stronger." No, it doesn't. It makes you Evan Peters.
That's right. It makes you nuts. It makes you available to be on this show. So in the next season.
Yeah, right.
That's funny. But you know what? Talking about we said Star Wars. Billie Lourd is that Carrie Fisher's daughter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, that's fantastic. Yeah. She's there, and she kind of looks like her, which was kind of neat. I mean, and obviously she's a new cast member at Allison Pill. But I'm really missing Kathy Bates would be fantastic in this series, but she's obviously not going to be there because for whatever reason.
Well, she did a Netflix series. She just did. Who knows? Maybe she's saying, I'll take a break, or maybe, not this season. I'll come back at a later date. It wasn't like when Jessica Lange left and you heard, she was done. Right. She just, for whatever reason, Kathy Bates isn't there this season. I would imagine she would come back. The one that I wish was happening was Vera Farmiga, because that was the big rumor. I love her. I would have loved to have her on here. That's one of those that you hear the name and you hear this and you go, that is just such perfect casting, like Kathy Bates,
Well, and there's no Dennis O'Hare, which he's a staple.
Yet? Do we know? Remember when we did Freak Show? That was the big thing. We thought we knew who was on it, and then all of a sudden we'd be like, "Oh, wait a minute, so and so's here, so and so's back."
Well, no, Dennis O'Hare was listed as coming back, but Emma Roberts, not Emma Roberts. What's her name? What's Julia Roberts' niece's name? Is it Emma Roberts? No, it's not Emma Roberts.
Yeah, Emma Roberts.
Emma Roberts. She came back, which we didn't know that she was coming back. So it would be nice if somebody does, but they didn't list anybody big because they've got Mare Winningham, who's supposed to be coming in later.
Okay.
Which,
she was in before.
She's been in several episodes. So
right.
Good because she was in Hotel and was she in Coven? I can't remember what the other one is. She was in another one too. She was in Murder House.
Was she in Murder House? I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but she's been in a couple episodes.
Hotel for sure.
Hotel for sure. So, and she was fantastic in that.
Oh, Billy Eichner is going to be on.
Who's that?
Difficult People.
Okay.
That's all I see.
But I'm just saying there's some good bit people, but they're not, and I'm also wondering is if this is too close to home for some people, and they might be like, I'm not going.
I'm not coming near this. Yeah,
but, but the people, a good number of those people, like, I don't think Kathy Bates cares politically one way or the other. Dennis O'Hare would take any shot he could.
I also think pretty much anybody that's involved in this show in American Horror Story is going to be more inclined to jump in on something like this.
Sure.
Because they know, like, this is going to be risky, and we're going to, I don't think it's like South Park when Isaac Hayes quit because they attacked, the whatever that church is.
Right.
Called. I'm sorry. I had to clear my throat there. So I do want to point out one more thing. Bradley Bucher was the director on this one.
Uh-huh.
He directed 3 episodes of Scream Queens. Makes sense. Billie Lourd is here. He's done 16 episodes of American Horror Story, and he was involved in Glee. So makes sense that he's there. Let's see if he was a producer on this too, because I have a feeling, yes, he is an executive producer on 59 episodes of American Horror Story, and 25 as co-executive producer. So this guy is deep in this series.
For sure. Because he did the season finale last year, didn't he? He's done a ton of shows for him.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, he's in I don't want to say in their camp. He knows their writing and what they want.
Right.
And I think it was successful. I mean, it's hard. It's got to be really hard, especially doing the 7th season of these types of shows to bring the A game, because everybody knows something crazy is going to happen. So I think they did a good job of setting it. But like you had said earlier, I think they did take some cheap tricks. But maybe that's all part of the plot where they're going to make
that's part of it. And those cheap things.
And all the cheap stuff is just her thinking like, oh, this is like what would happen in the comic books or slasher film. Because I'm getting some of that set up too.
Right. Also, Falchuk and Murphy wrote this episode, it says. Now, I don't know. sometimes, you know, they're involved and there's other writers. This is what it says on IMDb. So that's what I'll go with. I do hope that it's not a once and done twisty. I don't think it is. That trailer looked like he's back. I'd like to see, I mean, if you're going to have clowns,
yes,
The Simpsons doesn't do a clown episode without Krusty.
Right.
You know, you have Twisty's your Krusty.
Yes. He's the AHS Krusty. So
yes. So you got to have Twisty around when you do this. That's just how I feel about it.
Sure. Another interesting thing, and going back to what you were talking about Winter and Ivy.
Yeah.
Winter said she called them about what happened. And
yeah, she said, I called and neither one reacted.
So was maybe, and this will be my speculation, Winter has like a different number that when she calls Ivy because they're hooking up on the side. And, and Ivy didn't want to respond to that hookup and be like, oh my God, I just found out about.
Well, and the one that was freaking out them during all that, like freaking out on Winter was Sarah Paulson. Ivy wasn't the one freaking out on her.
So yeah, I think there's something to that. I think that was a good call by you.
Yeah, well, it's a good call for the setup, but we don't know if that's what's going on. We're not going to know that for a while because, like all our speculation in the past, it's taken a while, pretty much until the last 2 episodes before we've gone, aha.
Sure.
And we throw so much at the wall that it makes it seem like we're right.
Oh yeah.
But really, we're running at about 10% probably.
Well, exactly, and because what is Evan Peters' relationship with them? Because there has to be more than just him randomizing. I mean, how do these 2 people come from the same town? And you go to a city council meeting and they're talking about one thing, and one person is talking about it, so it can't be that big of a town. So why is there? Not that you're going to know everybody, but there's got to be more between Evan and, Evan Peters, the Kai Anderson, and the Ivy and Allie situation. There has to be more involved in that.
Now, he ran into him on the street.
Right.
And they didn't seem to recognize him or anything.
Right, but that could be just they don't, maybe he worked for them and they don't know, or maybe...
Could be.
Like
maybe he worked in that restaurant and they're just unaware.
Right, or he worked at the doctor's office.
Maybe he worked in the back and he worked with Ivy because they were very specific that Ivy stays in the back. We keep calling her Sarah Paulson. What's Paulson's character's name?
Sarah Paulson is Allie. Allison Pill is Ivy.
Okay. So she said Allie stays out front. I don't go out there. So maybe Evan Peters worked in the back, and that's how he connected the dots of Winter to Ivy. Potentially,
or you never, there's so.
And they hatched this plan to either try to use Allie as a sacrifice, basically, or to make her feel crazy so that she joins into their dark web thing, because they're trying to indoctrinate the kid too.
Sure,
that's pretty evident.
And she has some weird.
Or they're using the dark web stuff with the kid to make the kid seem as crazy as Allie. Like, look, your biological son is off his nut too. Look what's going on here. There is a cut here. You all need to go.
Sure. Or they know that the kid's susceptible, so they could get him on. I think get him on their side because she is obvious. I don't want to say obviously, but I think Winter is trying to recruit Ozzy like Kai recruited Winter. Oh, see, it's not that bad. Oh, watch this stuff. It isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, right. Right.
And the telltale sign is when Winter and Ozzy do a pinky swear. That's.
Oh yeah, that's coming.
And that's coming.
But I'll bet that's the layup. I bet we see Ivy and Winter or Ivy and Oz do the pinky swear.
Yeah, something will happen.
I bet we see that, and that's going to be a tell that we're going to get.
There'll be something from it. I think so. We'll see. I mean, they're not that they've done it that much, but I thought a little bit last year they kind of used some cliched stuff to get their story across, which I think is okay. Because it's hard in horror to be fresh, and they've been pretty fresh. even using the other genres, like or adapting things like in Hotel, where they adapted all of that stuff to tell the story.
Right.
I'm okay with it because, I may not find this scary, but I might find this thrilling and suspenseful. And I'd love to see what happens with Evan Peters because
I found this.
He was a great evil dude. He's a great.
I just found it interesting. I found myself watching it, trying to decipher what was happening. Sure. Martha was not as into it. She thought that it was disturbing and kind of cheap disturbing. Like I could tell that she was just not really digging it.
Did they do it intentionally to make it uncomfortable? Because if you felt strongly, I think if you feel really strongly one way or the other, you're going to be disturbed by this. And especially if you were very much in the Hillary side, this brings up a lot of ugly things that you may have felt. Right, wrong, and justified, unjustified. I think they nailed it on the head how a good number of people reacted, and incredulously, oh, how could this have happened? And then, in typical fashion, well, this isn't going to last long. This isn't going to do whatever. Well, the reality is we're in a tough situation here, especially if you're on that side of the political fence. And it's not just going to be okay. It's not all right. And I think that's the statement they're trying to make. So,
yeah. All right. I think we're done with this episode.
I do.
Once again, get in conversation with us. You can follow us on Twitter @DisturbedPod. You can follow me on Twitter @RSouthgate. Chris, where can they follow you?
You can follow me at Blue Box Cafe or Blue Box Cafe 176 on social media or at www.theblueboxcafe.com.
Yes, and we do have a website, and we have a page for Disturbed. The website is southgatemediagroup.com/disturbed, or just go to southgatemediagroup.com, and there will be links that will get you there. Also, we have a Facebook page. Just look up Disturbed Podcast on Facebook. And if you missed it, I don't know how you did, but if you missed it, we will try to tweet out a little bit of advance warning when we're going to go live, like we did here tonight on YouTube Live. You just have to go to the Southgate Media Group page and YouTube page, and you can watch us live. And we have a chat room. Tonight we were chatting with Sally. Get on there. We'll respond either there or on the show like we did tonight. And we also mention when you write in on Facebook, when you write in on Twitter, we're trying to really get some conversation going. So please give us your ideas about what happened here. Give us your ideas of where you think things are going. One thing I will create when this show goes live on our Facebook page, I'll put up a discussion thread for this episode. So at the Facebook page, there will be a discussion thread for Season 7, Episode 1, Election Night.
Yeah, please. And like Rob was saying, please get engaged. Let us know what's going on. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Let us know what you like and dislike about what we're saying and what we're doing, because, I don't want to say we feel the same way. We want to make this for you guys as fans. It's not just about us talking about it. It's about what you guys want to see. And we get a lot of, I think we get a lot of action on our Facebook page. So please, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we don't have a fancy little catchphrase for the end of this one like we have in the past. So I think for now, I'm just going to twist out.